It's time to choose my TBR pile for July via the means of bookshelf bingo. To the bingo balls of fate this month, I will be adding the dice of destiny, small but perfectly formed. So the bingo balls of fate will determine which shelf I select my books from, and I will then choose where there are sufficient books to do so. I will choose 6 books as potential TBR selections, and then the dice of destiny will help choose which one I actually try to read. So without further ado, let's get it done. I'm going to choose 9 shelves at random via the bingo balls of fate, and then I'll get 3 readers' picks and we'll see where that takes us. Shelf 13. I happen to know that's mainly Adam Roberts. Shelf 36, 2 came out there. Shelf 12, that's one of my A format vintage shelves. Shelf 1, also A format. Shelf 43. Shelf 14. Shelf 58. Shelf 2, ooh, another A format, mainly vintage shelf. Shelf 25. Right, so that's my 9 random shelves. So let's go and find some books. So shelf 1. We go from Douglas Adams, which I've read many times years and years ago. Brian Aldiss I wouldn't mind looking at. I think Space Time and Nathaniel is short stories, is it? Or 3 novellas? I think so. Paul Anderson, Piers Anthony, more Asimov. Pretty sure I've read all the Asimov. So let's see, what should I read in the oldest line? I think I'm going to have Frankenstein Unbound. Not least because it's fairly short. Okay, shelf 2 directly below. Possibly a couple of the early disastery books from Ballard, maybe. Although I think I said I was going to do short stories for him next. There's a few Benfords I might like. Case of Conscience, maybe. Startide Rising I'd quite like to read. I haven't read any John Brunner yet. Maybe it's time I read some John Brunner. Yeah, let's have a Shockwave Rider, maybe. I wouldn't mind reading Sinners. That's meant to be good. Or I could go with that Orson Scott Card, which I've heard is very good, Past Watch. Choose one more and then I might roll dice. What about let's have J.G. Ballard, Crystal World, as my possible. So 6 possibles on that shelf. Okay, Dice of Destiny for shelf 2. It was book 2 on shelf 2. Book 2 on shelf 2 is not Crystal World. It is A Case of Conscience by James Blish. Fabulous. I'm always a bit worried about this shelf because it was not screwed in properly and it kind of leans a bit. Let's see. So what have we got here? We've got some David Webber. I've read a couple of those. I'm not in a hurry to read more. James White I'd really like to read some of. But I really want to read the hospital ship ones. Jack Williamson maybe. I've read Book of the New Sun. I could go with The Island of Dr. Death and Other Stories and Other Stories. What Wyndham could I read that I haven't read? I haven't read Trouble with Lichen, so that would be a possible. What about some Zelazny? Lord of Light, that's a classic. Haven't read it. Dark Over Landfall is the OG or the origin story of the Dark Over series, so maybe. Harvest is meant to be pretty good. I've read Darwinia. It was okay. Alright, so that's 6 from that shelf. Dice of Destiny for shelf 12. Book 6 on shelf 12 is not Landfall, it is Roger Zelazny, Lord of Light. So this is shelf 13. In theory there's another one behind it, but there's nothing on it at the moment, so we'll call this shelf 13 today. So I could go with Adam Roberts. I haven't read Salt yet. In fact, this shelf is mostly Adam Roberts. I'd like to read Jack Glass, or I could go with This, or I could go with House of Rumours, which meant to be very good. It's not an Adam Roberts. So that means that 1, 2, 3, 4. So, or I could go with Whole Wide World rather. And what other Adam Roberts could I pick? I like The Sound of the Snow. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 there that I could choose from. The Dice of Destiny for shelf 13 is a 5. Book 5 is not Salt or The Snow or Jack Glass or This, so it's not Adam Roberts at all. It is Jake Arnott, House of Rumour. So this shelf is shelf 14. I haven't read either of these, so let's go with, let's go with Head On, which I think is a singleton. And then I've read Old Man's War, but I haven't read The Ghost Brigades, which I think is book 2. I could go with the 4th Becky Chambers. I could go with the Sparrow. Do want to read that at some point. And then what should I have as my 6th choice from this shelf? Let's go with the Cory Doctorow. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ooh. Maybe we'll go with the Loop. So that's 6 books from this shelf. So the 4th book then, according to the Dice of Destiny. So it's not that one or that one from John Scalzi. It's not Cory Doctorow or the Sparrow or Loop. It is Record of a Spaceborne Few by Becky Chambers. This is shelf 36. There aren't enough books on here for me to choose 6. So I'm just going to go with the first of the Vatters War, which I think is this one. If it isn't, I'll check. But yeah, book 1 of Vatters War. Okay, that's good. This is shelf 25. So again, there's not enough on this shelf to go with dice to make a decision. Let's go with Deep Wheel Arcadia because it's nice and slim and it's bite-sized. Now then, this is shelf 43, and this is quite exciting actually. So I can definitely find 6 I'd like to read on here. So I'd like to read False Dawn. I'd like to read A Dream of Wessex, Kite World, Skylords, Hard to Be a God, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let's do one more for the Dice of Destiny. I'll go with Bug Jack Baron. Shelf 43, Dice of Destiny is a 2. Book 2 on shelf 43 of the 6 that I sort of pre-selected is Chelsea Quinn Yarber, False Dawn, which is a post-apocalyptic tale. So this is shelf 58. So there's a Ray Bradbury collection. That's a possibility. The Collapsium I'd like to read. Bloom by Will McCarthy. That's 3 solid choices. I'll go with Carl Sagan as well. I could go with Foreigner as another potential. It's the first of a big series, but we'll see. I've read all these, so I might have to go with Termination Shock as my potential 6th choice. Book 3 on shelf 58. Now then, book 3 is... Book 1's a little bit concealed there. It is the Toynbee Convectus. That was book 1. Collapsium is book 2. So book 3 is Bloom. Okay, for readers' picks then, of which I shall choose 3. I want to read Daughter of Eden, so that's book 3 of the Eden trilogy. Now then, right down here, I'd quite like to read, it's a light holiday read actually. I think I'm going to choose Robopocalypse. That's meant to be a fun read. And then I think for my final reader's pick this month, I'm going to choose Ministry for the Future. Let's do a quick 2-minute spin through those, no more than that, and then I'll let you go. In no particular order. So we've got the Record of a Spaceborne Few. This is the 3rd book in the Wayfarer series. I really enjoyed the first one and the second one. Probably I enjoyed the second one more than the first one, actually. I surprised myself by how much I enjoyed them, so I'm looking forward to reading that. And then we've got Bloom by Will McCarthy. This will be the first book that I've read by him. I do have a few on my shelves now. And this tackles a fungal, cosmic scale fungal infestation, which has cosmic implications for Earth and humanity, and it's the story of the fight against that, I believe. I've heard it's very good, so I'm looking forward to that too. And then we've got a fun popcorn book. This will be ideal holiday reading for me later in July. Robopocalypse, which is, as the name suggests, humanity's in big trouble at the hands of the robots that they themselves have constructed. Then we've got Deep Wheel Arcadia, which is an unusual book, award-winning book by Harry Josephine Giles, who lives up in Orkney, and it's a slender book, and it's got dual text, so one in Orcadian and one in a kind of Scots-English, futuristic Scots-English dialect. So I think it's a bit tricky to read, but meant to be quite good. Then we've got Daughter of Eden, which is the 3rd book in the Eden trilogy. I really loved the first 2, looking forward to this one. The House of Rumour by Jake Arnott, which is an author that I'm not familiar with. And this book is about propaganda in the Second World War and the blurring boundaries between truth and fiction, subterfuge and reality. Meant to be very good, more on the literary fiction side of things. Another holiday read, I suspect, Elizabeth Moon, Trading in Danger, which is the 1st book of the Vatters War saga. It's military science fiction. The only other book that I've read of hers is Remnant Population, which I read last year and really enjoyed. It was one of my books of the year, I think, actually. And I've heard good things about this one too, so I'm looking forward to it. Slender volume by Brian Aldiss, Frankenstein Unbound, which I really don't know much about at all, but being Brian Aldiss, the writing will be fantastic. Another slender tome, if that's not a contradiction in terms, A Case of Conscience by James Blish. This is a tale of an alien planet. It's a theological thriller, basically. An alien civilization is found. They're perfect in every way, but can they be allowed to exist in a universe where God has created man in his own image? So much more than that, I don't know. Looking forward to reading it. It's a classic. Roger Zelazny, Lord of Light, which I don't know much about. I'm not sure if it's truly science fiction or fantasy. And it's described on the back here as, here is fantasy writing of the highest caliber, but then underneath price it says science fiction. I don't know, you can tell me. And then there's The Ministry for the Future, which has lurked on my shelves for some months now. I'm really looking forward to reading this. I like Kim Stanley Robinson. I like the detail that it goes into, a bit nerdy and a bit dry sometimes. And I think this is a book about climate change and about the dire consequences of ignoring it, but what we might do as a society to fix it, or at least live with it. And then finally, False Dawn by Chelsea Quinn Yarbrough. It's an author that I've never read before. I hear really good things about this book. It's a post-apocalyptic tale. In fact, it featured in my recent video on the many ways in which science fiction tries to kill us all. And I hear that her writing is excellent, so I should be looking forward to reading that. It's, again, not terribly thick book, a couple hundred pages. That is everything. I'm really looking forward to reading those. Let me know if you've read any of them and what you thought, and what, or if you have a strong view about which one I should read first. Do let me know in the comments. As always, thank you for watching, and until next time, goodbye for now.